In Magic, there are three archetypal players. There is Timmy, who enjoys spectacle, excitement, and big numbers. Timmy cards are generally pretty simple as far as functionality, but they make an immediate impact. Think cards like Force of Nature, which is really big, but not good. A 6 mana 8/8 Trampler sounds really exciting, but an upkeep of 4 green per turn makes it more balanced. Other large creatures like Progenitus and the Eldrazi Titans appeal to Timmy. Next is Johnny the Combo Player, who enjoys playing a deck with lots of moving parts, otherwise known as combo potential. Cards like Birthing Pod just drip with open-ended design space, although not necessarily the best example of balance. Last up is Spike, who likes to win. Paradoxically, this does not mean that Spike likes to use overpowered cards, but would prefer a balanced metagame where skill becomes more important than luck. A power card like Delver of Secrets is only appealing if there's an appropriate counterplay option. At the same mana cost, Fatal Push is such an option. The recent ban of Field of the Dead in Standard indicates a power card with a lack of counterplay and interactivity, since cheap and effective land destruction is largely unavailable in Standard. Consistency boosting cards like Demonic Tutor or modal cards like Cryptic Command also appeal to Spike. These archetypal players are a good starting place, but I want to expand and describe a few more metrics. Let's introduce the good old Cartesian grid. It is a great way of describing functions and graphing, but we will be using it to indicate two gameplay-related descriptors. First is winning, which is not necessarily a binary condition where you can only ever win or lose, but can be expressed as a number between 0 and 1, showing the win rate of a player or deck. We could go into ELO rankings, and maybe one day, but today, let's just set the x-axis to represent a win rate of 50%. Perfectly even matches. Higher win rates are above the x-axis, lower win rates below. Next metric is fun. This should be pretty self-explanatory. Very fun on the right, no fun on the left. Each quadrant can represent a different player archetype. First quadrant with high win rate and having fun with the game is Alexis. There's a playful element, but winning is important. Second quadrant is high win rate but not fun. Bastion takes the game very seriously and builds decks to maximize win rate over everything else. He is a bit of a Spike. Third quadrant is low win rate and low fun. This is a design dead zone which should be avoided if possible, as if the game is not fun, and if you continuously lose, you're likely to stop playing. Chumley is a defeated duelist with low motivation and an abysmal win rate. He eventually improves though. Fourth quadrant, we have low win rate but fun. Jaden has plot armor as the protagonist, but when he loses, he is graceful, sportsmanlike, and even enjoys being bettered in a fair game. Personally, this is where I lie, where winning is not so important and I prefer to play a fun deck over a high win rate one. We can actually transform this 2D model into a 3D model. We keep the X and Y axis, but add a new axis, Z, which will represent deck design and gameplay. If your deck is improvisational with a large variety of cards, modal cards, and or different win conditions, diverse decks like those in Commander or other singleton formats lend themselves well to the improvisational playstyle. The opposite of improvisational is performative. A performative playstyle tends to lead to very linear play. At its most extreme, a dedicated combo or win condition governing gameplay. Johnny tends toward the performative end of the spectrum. There's a large range between the extremes of a completely random deck, ultimate improvisation, and a binary win condition combo deck that has no variations in the combo. On this graph, I am here. There are other metrics that we could examine, such as preferred rhythm of play, tending toward either aggro or control matchups. You can also examine the intersection of these metrics with the Bartle's taxonomy of player types. A good deal of card games require multiple players, so there's a social component to play. I have run out of axes on this graph. So maybe we should adopt the Naruto radar charts. I might develop a Likert instrument to diagnose player type one day, but for this survey video, a pretty picture will suffice.